Hello, dear ones. My name is Drac16, and thank you for joining me for another video. So, today is going to be a bit different. I'm going to talk about the subject of suicide, in particular, how we can respond to someone who's experiencing suicidal thoughts. And these are not just people who are locked up in a mental institution somewhere. No, no, no. Suicide has become so prevalent, it's so common in our society. It's quite alarming, and they can happen to anyone. You don't have to be mentally ill to experience suicidal thoughts. In fact, I would say that probably most people who are adults have experienced suicidal thoughts before. So this is not just something that happens in one part of the world. No, 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 no. These are thoughts that can occur to anyone. Even the happiest people in the world have probably thought about killing themselves at one point or another in their life. Everyone experiences sadness. So a suicidal person is just in a very low point, and we need to encourage a person to seek help. But at the same time, we should be honest with them and tell them that this is only temporary. But, anyways, um, I've put together a list of 5 things that we Christians can do to help people who are experiencing suicidal thoughts. Number one is don't question their sincerity. This is going to piss them off incredibly if you do that, because a suicidal person is a lot of times they don't want to commit suicide, but they just feel that it's the only way out to stop their pain. So, you don't ever want to take it lightly when someone is experiencing suicidal thoughts. Number two is listen more than you talk. And this is very important. Well, all these 5 things are important, but it's extremely, God gave us 2 ears and one mouth so that we listen twice as much as we talk. I heard that on a TV show one time, but it's absolutely true. And I believe that it's absolutely biblical to listen more than you talk. Because, I mean, if you could go to you know, a suicidal person has heard every piece of argument under the sun, and they've heard people say, well, you're not really depressed. You're just weak, or, well, I have a better answer than you. No, just don't question their sincerity, but also listen to them and be compassionate and speak to them as if their words matter, because they do matter at the end of the day. They do matter. They were made in the image of God, and therefore they are worthy of some level of respect. Number three is don't get angry, and that's a person who is suicidal is not in his or her right mind. So it's common for a suicidal person to say things that they don't necessarily mean, but they're doing that because their mind isn't capable for momentarily. It's not capable of thinking good thoughts. So if someone swears or whatever, or if someone says that your religion is BS, please don't get angry at them. Just understand that they're in a crisis right now and they're not in their right mind. So getting angry at them is only going to make matters worse. So please just brush it off, be thick skinned, and don't, you should encourage them to be honest. Um, because at the end of the day, I wouldn't, like, the Columbine shooters, for instance, if I could say something to them before they went and did their deed, I wouldn't say anything to them. I would just listen. And that's why they had that problem that they did, because no one would listen to them. No one would give them the time of day to express themselves. So when a suicidal person is angry at something, or they're swearing, or they're saying that your religion is BS, please try to not get angry at them. Just try and brush it off because they're not in their right mind. Number four is be honest. Now, This may be controversial to some, but I suspect that it's probably important as well. That if a suicidal person asks you a question about your faith as a Christian, I believe that you should be honest about it. So if somebody asks you, "Will I go to hell if you commit suicide?" you have to answer it honestly and say, "You might. It's possible that you might go to hell." But understand that you can't scare someone into heaven. So you shouldn't be trying to win a convert in the middle of a suicidal episode. You should only be there to comfort him or her. So if somebody asks you for your opinion or your beliefs, you should be honest with them. In fact, I would say that most suicidal people will be more appreciative of your honesty than they will if you're just feeding them flowery language and a bunch of BS saying, "Well, it's okay, it's not a big deal if you kill yourself. God loves you anyway." I mean, while it may be true that God does love them anyway, he's going to be offended by that. God is offended because all of life is sacred. Human life, at least, is sacred. It We were made in the image of God, and God, you know, so to murder yourself or to commit suicide would be a tremendous crime. Now, I'm not saying a suicidal person will necessarily go to hell because, for all we know, they might not. They might go to heaven. But even if they do go to heaven, God will not be pleased with what they did. He'll be very upset by it. You see, when we shed a tear, God sheds a tear. When we are upset, he gets upset. And those who try and, anyways. Now, the number 5 is share experiences you've had. And this is where the Christian can really do the best convincing, is that you share stories from the scriptures. I like to think about the story of Joseph, the son of Jacob. I try and bring that story to remembrance whenever I mean, I rarely experience suicidal thoughts, but I know that there is a way out, that it can be treated. Suicidal thoughts can be treated. And I wouldn't say necessarily that you should go to medication to try and cure your suicidal thoughts, because it's been known that antidepressants can actually make suicidal thoughts worse or more common. So I don't think you should necessarily want to get on medication for suicidal thoughts. It may very well help in some instances, but not with antidepressants. And I'm not saying I'm a doctor, but I know that antidepressants can in fact make things a bit worse than they already are. So if you're experiencing suicidal thoughts, you should talk to a doctor about it and see what he or she would recommend. But anyways, back to Joseph. He went from being falsely accused of wanting to sleep with Potiphar's wife. He was falsely accused. He was accused of and thrown into prison for a crime he never did. He was sold into slavery. He was abandoned by his brothers, only to come into God's rich uh, justice. Not only was he thrown in prison, but he also probably had doubts. Heck, he might have even had suicidal thoughts too. I wouldn't say that that's an unreasonable thing to believe. In fact, I'll ask Joseph about it if I get into the kingdom of heaven. Yeah, I'll ask him if he ever experienced suicidal thoughts. It will be a very revealing conversation. But he had doubts, no question about that. The Bible doesn't necessarily record that, but after all, Joseph was a human. He had doubts too. His faith had all the frailties that you and I might have. So yeah, he went into prison, and then after he correctly interpreted a dream, and it was found out that he never slept with Potiphar's wife, he became second in command of the Egyptian Empire. He received a huge promotion. Not only was he able to exit prison, but he was second in command of the Egyptian Empire, which was probably one of the most powerful empires in the world at that time. So, yeah, there was always something to look forward to. Each day is a new beginning. There are so many good things in life, like the birds chirping outside every morning, and the, the fact that, people can be so loving and wonderful. And there is a lot of bad things, but getting back to number three, don't get angry. It's good to share what good things there are in life. And so it's really critical that we reach out to suicidal people. So if someone approaches you and they say that they're suffering from suicidal thoughts, please be nice to them. Please be friendly to them. Please be compassionate to them. Don't blow it off as saying, well, if you're a real Christian, you should never ever experience that. No, that's just unbiblical and very callous to say something like that. We should reach out to people who are suicidal, especially if they're one of our friends or family members or someone from our church or something like that. But hopefully this has been a good video to you to encourage believers. Anyways, thank you very much for watching, and I hope that all of you have a beautiful day. God bless you.